Alright, broski, it's T and I'm back with another video again, man, and it's on Renaissance periodization. Mike Isreatel, Dr. Mike Isreatel, yes, we have to call him by his proper name. He's a doctor. He must know something none of us all out there know, because he has a word called doc next to it, acting doctor. Okay, Mr. Acting Dr. Isreatel. He did a video, it's on inflammation. Is inflammation good for muscle gains? Dom's explained. Is it bad? Good DOMs, bad DOMs, this, that. I did a video on it. I did it from the beginning, but I don't know. I lost it or something. Somebody called me and I got rid of it. So I'm doing it all over again. But I'm going to start at a different point because there's no point going through the whole thing, I think. I may go back to the beginning at some point. We'll see. Hold on.
And a way that does that without driving you completely insane is if it's chronic and low level. If inflammation is chronic, which means it's kind of there all the time. If it's low level, that's a good thing in the sense that it's not fucking making your life hell right away, but a bad thing in the sense that if it's low level enough but above baseline, it's always there and you can barely or can't tell, so you don't do anything about it. You might not even know about it. And lastly, if it's systemic, that spreads out the detection problem even more. People who are unhealthy, especially people who have metabolic syndrome and are highly obese, tend to have a systemic, low-level, chronic, total body inflammation. Now that shit is really fucking bad.
Yeah, that's like these bodybuilders and these powerlifters and everybody coming to the gym chasing chronic inflammatory muscles. They're hypertrophying muscles through inflammation. This is what I'm trying to tell you. He's done it. This video, he talks about good inflammation, bad inflammation. He'll say something about periodic in a second, I think, here. Hold on. I didn't watch the end of the video. I did a video from the beginning to the center part. So now I'm just starting from the center.
That demands attention of a medical professional.
That accelerates aging, disease, and a whole bunch of other weird things. They're systemic. They start coming on slowly. They exist. They're there, about to pop out at any time.
And a rigorous course of action to try to undo the bad stuff, like being of very large physical size and high level of adiposity, low physical activity, poor nutrition, not taking various medications, having too high of a blood pressure, so on and so forth. These are the things that need fixing because in that context, inflammation is actually very bad. What do you get?
Yeah, I would say it's very bad for you, inflammation. Yes, chronic inflammation.
When PhD sport scientists collaborate with pro bodybuilders, the most effective muscle growth training app ever made.
Let's go back to
that concern us in order to try to open up this intellectual conversation to learn some shit from it. The first is local inflammation, like my elbow is inflamed. The second is systemic inflammation, which you can do with a variety of blood markers and other scans where we say, yeah, like your systemic inflammation is a little higher than we like.
Hold on, you could be misconstruing this type of inflammation for being like the movement too. I'm not saying the movement is not causing that, but you can increase this inflammatory response through oxalate crystals forming in your joints. Yeah, they form in there. If there's damage in these joints, damage in the muscle and everything, I hear that these oxalates, these crystals, they build up in there. I heard when somebody had a needle in their arm, the second time they went in there, they poked and hit a crystal formed in there because there was damage there. That crystal formed where that damage is, and then they poked the needle in there, broke the needle in half. So these crystals, they're really damaging. And how do you get them? Through vegan diets or your herbivore diet. There's fruits and vegetables and these man-made foods. They have oxalates in them. Sugar has oxalates in it. So this crystal forms in your body, especially if you're causing damage. Like, there's different kinds of damages out there. There's a wearing out type of damage. You going to the gym, you're wearing your body out chronically. Okay, that isn't muscle damage. Muscle damage can only happen periodically to muscles. But I'm just saying. So yeah, sometimes it's not just the movement itself too is causing it. A lot of it is this oxalate stuff. You got to be careful with that.
See, because of X, Y, Z reasons. At the very least, those two things are different, and potentially how you would address them, or if you even would, are also different.
So is there a good inflammation and bad inflammation? Well, No inflammation is good inflammation, but if you have an injury of some sort, whether it's a micro injury or an injury, a severe injury, I wouldn't try to take these drugs to try to lower the inflammation, because that's the healing process. You may fuck up the healing process. Yeah, you don't want to do that, man. I'd be careful with that.
Next point.
And that is a bad thing to take anti-inflammatories, especially when you do have these micro injuries in your muscles and you want to grow them bigger and stronger.
Inflammation. So first of all, there's not just one type of inflammation. First fallacy, or part of this problem. Second is that inflammation can be a good thing. What? What? How the
It's still not a good thing, but, you know, temporary inflammation when it comes to, how should I put it? If there's an injury there and there's an inflammatory response, that is a good thing. You don't want to get rid of it because you want it to heal and remodel itself.
How is that possible? That it could be a good thing? Well, hold on a second. Local muscle inflammation, the delayed onset soreness and tightness and weirdness you feel a few days after your muscles, or a few hours after your muscles get trained, is...
But are you getting that? Are all of you getting that? Well, if you are, why aren't you getting bigger then? See what I mean? That is really hard to get, and it can become apoptosis. Yeah, if you're not feeding that thing, those micro injuries in there, like you just said right now, these DOMs and stuff, the crux and the domes, then you'll get an apoptosis, meaning you'll lose muscle fiber, because now you have dead tissue in there and you're trying to rebuild new muscle. And then if you're building new muscle and remodeling muscle, well, that's a feat, man. Protein needs to exceed that breakdown. If it's not, it's apoptotic.
A big, integral, critical part of the remodeling and upgrading that your muscles receive in order to become bigger and stronger. And we know for a fact...
So then why aren't they becoming bigger and stronger? He's just telling you, look, you're going to go work out the next day, you get this soreness. The next day, all the time, when you do that, you're getting that. So why aren't you getting bigger? See what I mean?
Pretty much. That if you take high-dose, powerful anti-inflammatories around...
If that is true, and this guy's a doctor, if that's true, that if you do that lifting, you get this, and your muscles are going to get bigger and stronger from doing that, then why does Dr. Isreatel have to take steroids? Why does he have to rely on steroids and take steroids if that's the truth? You understand me? Think about that. Tell him to do it. Tell him to show you how to do it normally. Because he's full of shit, that's why.
Around your workout window, you reduce the propensity for muscle growth.
None of you are getting damaged. None of you are damaging muscles. I would say you're damaging them, like wearing them out in the gym chronically if you're going there and getting inflammatory response, fake hypertrophy, inflammatory response muscles, like I said in all my videos. But I would definitely say you're not getting it because there's something called repeated bout effect phenomenon. And then plus there's a myonuclear domain. It has a myonuclear domain. That progenitor ain't donating any more nuclei to that domain to further any more growth from the age of 15. You do get it when you do something you're unaccustomed to. There is a donation, so you can further that domain during this hypertrophic process. But again, once that happens, it reaches a ceiling limit. They cannot further any more growth. See what I mean? That is the problem with that. So how do you exceed that growth? Protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown so you can exceed that growth. Then you get a donation of the nuclei. They synthesize protein by doing something very specific to keep pushing that domain to build muscle. It ain't gonna build by lifting a heavy weight or a weight in a gym chronically. The only thing you're gonna get there is inflammatory muscles. I'm sorry, bro, but that's just how it works, man. If you don't have money, you can't build your body. Not in this world.
From that workout. What? But I thought squashing inflammation was...
But you can build it fake with a couple of bucks using steroids. Yeah, you can build artificial stuff like everybody else. It's a cosmetic look. When you ask your doctor for steroids, he says, oh, cosmetic. Yeah, because he knows you want it for a cosmetic look. You're trying to create a cosmetic look. Now, if you tell him, well, I want steroids because I want to lift a heavy weight, he's going to go, oh, That's totally different now, right? It's not cosmetic anymore. It's not cosmetic. What is it? To lift a heavy weight.
A good thing in all cases, because it's always bad. Well, it turns out that's not the case. There is even a very convincing body of research that if you break your arm...
Mike Isreatel uses drugs to create a cosmetic look. You understand me? Then he comes on here and he's the foremost, how should I put it, professional on the subject, on all this bullshit that he does. And when in fact he's never done it real. Does he even know how to do it real? Can he tell you what really builds muscle real? I can. And I can bring out real reports and really explain it to you in the simplest terms to tell you that this is how it's built and this is how it works. Does he even have one video that even tells you what I told you and using NCBI reports to prove what I say? See what I mean? Has he ever done that? Myocytic androgen receptor controls the strength but not the mass of the limb muscles. What controls that mass? Protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. That's what controls it. See what I mean? And the nuclei, because they synthesize protein to further that domain because they reach a myonuclear domain size limit. Ceiling limit during hypertrophic process, beyond which this progenitor could donate any more nuclei to support further growth. So what do you have to do to get that progenitor to wake up to donate its nuclei to further that domain to support further muscle growth? It's easy. You need to cause something specific to the muscle fiber to cause it to do that. They're quiescent. They don't want to do, they're quiescent. If they're quiescent, then they're not doing it. Now, just going to a gym, lifting a weight won't do that. The problem is here. So you need to damage muscles to get to donate these nuclei. Okay, here's the problem. The repeated bout effect phenomenon protects muscle from a repeated bout of damage. And this progenitor is not donating after that anymore. There's no more damage, no donation. That progenitor, that fiber needs to be damaged for that progenitor, the satellite cell, to wake up and donate its nuclei to synthesize protein. And then again, protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown. Get it? It's kind of like 2-part, 3-part in one. 2, 3, 4 parts in one. Yeah. They're like moving parts.
Arm, or pull a tendon off the bone and you get surgery to fix those things. The recovery from that traumatic injury, not even just muscle growth, bone growth, tendon growth, that recovery can be muted to some...
Yeah, that bone growth, tendon growth, all that joint growth and everything. Oh yeah? Here's the funny thing, Isreatel. When you were younger, before you reached the age where you stopped growing at 24, 25, yeah, these things would repair and remodel themselves quite quickly and efficiently, I may add, when you're young. Now, when you stop growing after the age of 24, 25, they don't do that anymore. If you break a bone, why does it take 8 months to heal? Because you're not growing anymore. You understand me? You're not growing. Something specific has to happen in the body. But again, even when it does happen, how much time do you need to recover and repair and remodel your body, even your bone and everything? Then again, a broken bone takes what? 8 months. Why? Why in an adult after the age of 25 it takes 8 months, but before that, previously, it only took 6 weeks? Ask yourself that question. So Isreatel, it doesn't really explain these things to you.
To some extent, slowed down, less complete if you rely heavily on anti-inflammatories much of the time versus if you take them...
Yeah, I gotta agree with him there. If you're taking anti-inflammatories and you do have an injury or something there, it will slow down the growth, the repair mechanism. You don't want to slow it down. That's why you don't want to take anti-inflammatories. People don't understand that. Look, there's really, like he said, bad inflammation through disease like gout in the leg and drinking alcohol and doing weird things, falling down or not falling down, going to the gym chronically or typing, carpal tunnel syndrome, something. I don't know. There's inflammatory things from diseases that you're carrying, maybe stenosis, something in the spine. I don't know. Maybe it's rheumatism. Who the hell knows? These things are very bad and they accelerate aging. Disease accelerates aging and aging is a disease. So that accelerates aging. All these things could be, yeah, they could be really bad. But the good stuff, when you cause a micro injury and you get an inflammatory response, you definitely don't want to take those to eliminate, to shorten the time to repair and model. It'll take way too long. And it takes long enough as it is already. But now if you work through it If you work through it, it'll become apoptotic as well. So that's another problem. If you're not eating enough, it becomes apoptotic.
Gingerly in the first few days to really keep the crazy swelling down, and then as soon as you're feeling better, you either reduce the dose significantly or you stop. Which is to say, high anti-inflammatory use leads to incomplete or a reduced rate of bone and tendon and connective tissue healing and ultrastructural revision. That's not good, but...
Yeah, that's all you need to know. What else you need to know? You just need to know that if you take these anti-inflammatories and you're a person that's lifting, I wouldn't take those. Not a lifting person. Now, now the chronic lifters that are seeking an inflammatory response to have their fake hypertrophy muscles through inflammation, well, why would you take that? It's counterproductive to take that, because don't you want to walk around with your fake muscles? That's why you're going there lifting chronically, isn't it?
Yes, we thought inflammation was all bad, but it turns out it's critical to not only muscle growth in its fullest potential, but also injury healing. Okay.
Yeah, it's critical for fake muscle growth, the people that are coming chronically, but people who are doing it periodically, yeah, it's critical. It's definitely critical for when they're actually building muscle, yes.
Interesting. It gets complicated. Short bouts of local inflammation are very important to heal all sorts of damage, including wound.
Short bouts of local inflammation is not good for you. What are you talking about? Inflammation ages you. That wearing out inflammation ages you.
Healing, bone and joint healing, and muscle healing that causes hypertrophy of really all those systems and gets you back to normal and even above.
The fake hypertrophy?
So,
if you get inflammation, do you hypertrophy? The muscles hypertrophy? Of course they do. But it's temporary.
Is that it? Inflammation's good, but is it bad? Of course it can be bad. Inflammation is usually bad when it's excessive by a long shot, even locally. If your elbow is this big, 2 feet out, is probably too much inflammation. The body's inflammatory response is a general response that's designed to heal, but sometimes so much inflammatory response enters that the pressure on the entire structure and the actual damage itself, because of the inflammation and all the fluid that it brings in, is so high, it's actually doing a little bit of secondary damage and potentially limiting the healing.
He didn't really explain DOMS.
Process. So sometimes even local inflammation can be reduced a little bit when it's excessive, and that's your doctor's decision in the injury process as to when to make that call, and usually they're very, very good at it. But another thing is inflammation is systemically high. Often that's a bad thing. Often that means your health could be better, and maybe the inflammation can be better, and maybe the inflammation can be brought down temporarily with drugs, but the better answer after that is to look at why inflammation is high systemically, because a lot of
that's usually disease. People have disease, they're inflamed, their body's inflamed, especially eating the wrong foods inflame you. There's another problem. A lot of it has to do with people eating the wrong food, and that food is inflaming your cells in your body. I talked about this before. Petri dish with, and they did a scientific thing, Petri dish with nutrients and a Petri dish with crap food in it. Your cells, they run away from it, but they can't run away once it goes in your body. So it causes an inflammatory response. So that inflammatory response is very bad. It goes throughout your body. It's because this food, this crappy food that's flowing through your body is the wrong food. It's not the right food you're eating. It's poisonous. Let's just put it that way.
Sometimes it can be like, wow, actually your liver is not doing the things it's supposed to be doing. I'm glad that we did this inflammation test. Now we can fix your liver and the inflammation will go down and all that stuff. So inflammation can be bad when it's excessive.
Yeah.
And especially bad when it is chronic. If your biceps get inflamed after training and then a day later they're no longer inflamed, and then you train them hard and then their cycle happens, shit, you're winning. Awesome. Just acute bouts of inflammation.
See, acute bouts of inflammation. You aren't winning, man. You're accelerating aging, bro. What's he talking about? Acute bouts of inflammation is bad for your arms. Get it? You're just building muscles from inflammation, inflammatory muscles.
are good for you. They make you stronger and more resilient and are part of the adaptive
How does an inflammation make you stronger and more resilient? What are you talking about? This is ridiculous.
process itself. But if the inflammation is chronic, it's always hanging around. And a way that does that without driving you completely insane is if it's chronic and low level. If inflammation is chronic, which means it's kind of there all the time, if it's low level, that's a good thing in the sense that it's not fucking making your life hell right away. But
Oh, it's not making your life hell right away,
a bad
but eventually it is making your life
thing in the sense that
it is making your life hell eventually. By accelerating aging, bro, and a bunch of other things that come with it, and diseases. So yeah, I don't know what else to say here, man. It's just is there good and bad? I wouldn't take statins if you're trying to accomplish something. It's bad to be getting chronically inflamed. That's all. Working out in gyms chronically. You're chasing an inflammatory muscle hypertrophy, fake muscles, and a bunch of other things there. Yeah, like I said, if weights could build a muscle, then why isn't everybody getting jacked lifting weights? Why do they have to take drugs, fake it, do this? Why do they have to do bulk diets with donuts to build fake muscles and carbs and all this weird stuff? Why can't you really build a muscle? Because protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. And to get that muscle to further that domain, you need a donation of these nuclei by the satellite cell, because they synthesize protein to push that domain, because it reached a ceiling limit during hypertrophic process, the real process, not inflammatory fake. It's getting a little bit complicated there, I guess you'd say that. So that's why nobody's getting big in the gym. That's why, what is it, nuclear overload training precedes hypertrophy. They show you a map. It says untrained muscles, and then it shows you. You get the satellite cell, there's a donation, boom. This domain furthers a bit. They call it newbie gain, some people. And then they never get it again, because now you need to move to the next stage. But none of you are moving to the next level. None of you have graduated to the next level. You're all stuck on the newbie gains, like Alex Leonidas and all these other influencers, Omar Izov and everybody else. That's why they're all complaining about natties and this and people faking it, everything. We're all natty, noble natties and everything. You're not a noble natty. You've never graduated to the second, third, fourth, or fifth level. You stayed at, you're like a white belt. You're still at white belt. You haven't moved to yellow or brown or whatever, black belt. You're there, bro, all the time. Get it? You're not graduating. It's time to graduate, bro. Get it? I'll see you in the next one. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. Inflammatory muscles. It's great, yeah. Building inflammatory muscles, yes. There's good, there's bad, there's good. Be careful. Know the differences. See ya.